seconds away on Studio 5.
You still think that?
I mean, I guess, but nothing's actually stopping us. If we weren't meant to be on the train tomorrow, something would physically stop us.
Behind the scenes of a film ripped from the headlines and sitting down with the real-life heroes who portray themselves in the Clint Eastwood project.
As far as the three of us working together, I think that just goes back to our friendship.
And then,
Your friends in Christ, the Reverend Michael Spurlock.
meet the actor who routinely plays the role of a minister in movies.
When I'm asked to portray a shepherd, I take it very seriously.
Plus,
Rabbits are generous, honest, pure, graceful creatures.
Peter Rabbit's longtime feud reaches new heights.
He's a classic underdog. He's a rascal.
The cast is in Studio 5 and the show starts now. Welcome to Studio 5. We've got lots to get to in this show, including an incredible look at the film 1517 to Paris. But first, let's get to the countdown of the top headlines in the world of uplifting entertainment news. At number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles win their very first Super Bowl, and God gets the glory.
I can only give the praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me this opportunity. And I'm going to tell you something, I got the best players in the world.
The Eagles beat the New England Patriots 41-33 in Minneapolis Sunday. At number 4, the second coming of Jim Caviezel as Jesus is a bit closer.
Now, you've got another film coming up, I hear, but it probably haven't started yet, called The Resurrection. It's a sequel to The Passion of the Christ. Is that true?
It's probably about 3 years off because it's a big subject.
Yeah, I've read the book.
Yeah.
I know how it ends.
Entertainment Weekly reports Caviezel is in talks to resurrect his role of Christ in Mel Gibson's sequel to The Passion of the Christ, which chronicled the final 12 days of Jesus' life before the crucifixion.
It's more than a single event, it's an amazing event, and to underpin that with the things that around it is really the story.
1517 to Paris is a book and now a movie that tells the real-life story of three men whose brave act turned them into heroes aboard a high-speed railway ride. Anthony Sadler, Alek Skarlatos, and Spencer Stone play themselves in the Clint Eastwood film, and we sat down with them to bring you this first look at the film. August 21st, 2015.
We begin with breaking news overnight. 3 Americans are hailed as heroes for foiling an attack on a high-speed train in Europe.
Alek Skarlatos, Anthony Sadler, and Spencer Stone.
2 American servicemen and their friend on vacation in France praised for stopping what could have been a mass killing.
Make headlines around the world.
You see them right there getting the Legion of Honor, France's highest civilian award.
We just want to say thank you to them for not only saving so many lives, but also for making America look so good.
Their heroic story is now a feature film, 1517 to Paris. Clint Eastwood directs the action drama, and he began with an unlikely casting decision.
I was going through the regular casting thing of looking through a lot of actors and tape, good actors too, and they would have done a good job. I kept looking at the guys, and I kept looking at their faces and going over this. And finally one day I just said, do you guys think you could play yourselves?
Take me back to when he does ask. What are you thinking when he says, can you play yourselves?
We just couldn't say no. We said yes right away. And then when he left the room for the first time, we all kind of looked at each other like, can we really do this?
We didn't want to risk the success of the film, having not acted before. We're like, I'm sure actors could do it. Like, this is unheard of. At the time, it just seemed so crazy almost.
Was it a difficult task redoing this?
It was definitely different, that's for sure. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, it was difficult, especially to begin with, when we first started getting used to just being on set. But once we got used to it, it was still pretty difficult, but I mean, especially the scenes when it was just us, it was just like hanging out with your friends again.
The film takes viewers back to the young men's very early years.
I play Heidi Skarlatos, the mother of Alek Skarlatos, one of the young men who stopped the terrorist on the train to Paris. Heidi was divorced when Alek was young, and she was essentially a single mom, you know, a divorced mother. And her greatest ally was her neighbor, played by Judy Greer, who plays Spencer Stone's mother. And their friendship and camaraderie, these two women, really helped one another through those tough years of single parenting.
I wanted to show how it sort of affected everybody in the situation, not just the literal situation that happened on the train, but how it affected the lives surrounding it.
You guys just want to skip Paris?
Or at least delay it a little bit.
We're going to see a bigger piece of the story than we've seen before going to the film. Let's go back to that day in August when you guys are getting up to go about your day, prepare for this trip. Was there something different? Did you feel something odd about the day?
Not odd about the day. Maybe what was odd about it was how close we were to staying in Amsterdam. It was almost a pull a force that we had been feeling all week to stay there almost, I would say. But even the morning of, we had already packed the night before, and we were like, should we stay though? And then I think looking back in hindsight, that was a question within ourselves because without really knowing at the time, that was probably trying to tell us that we need to go.
You should have heard this guy. He was talking about how life is catapulting him towards something like some greater purpose or something like that.
Spencer said that?
I know, right?
You still think that?
I mean, I guess, but nothing's actually stopping us. If we weren't meant to be on the train tomorrow, something would physically stop us. An object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by a greater force.
Recreating that train ride from Brussels to Paris where the three friends took down the terrorist wasn't easy.
You're moving it on a train that's going 180 miles per hour, and we had to stay on their schedule. So that means, you know, you couldn't stop and say, wait a second, we're going to back up. And every time we got into a station, we were only there for however long it would be.
Two of you are sleeping, at least when this thing begins to unfold. You two are sleeping. Yeah. So you're awake and seeing this.
Right.
What clicks for all of you to just seem to work so in sync with each other and know what to do? What happened?
Well, I honestly think that probably just goes back to our training because, I mean, Spencer and I both got training in the military and we both kind of fell into our own individual roles. And then as far as the three of us working together, I think that just goes back to our friendship because we've been friends like pretty much our whole lives. I mean, Spencer and I have been friends since we were 5. We all met Anthony when we were 12, and we've all kind of gone our separate ways, but we all stayed in touch, and that's kind of the importance of like keeping up relationships because you never know when you might need to survive a terrorist attack with them.
I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just pushing us towards something, like some greater purpose?
What is this entire scenario, the story and what you've gone through, done for your faith? What has it done?
Definitely
just solidified it.
Yeah.
It's like a confirmation, like we said before, like said previously, like people like look all their lives for like this big biblical moment, like how it was in the Bible, like a confirmation, like this is my miracle, I need to believe, I need to see this in order to believe. And most people don't usually get that, so it's like usually a walk by faith. But for us, being only like 23 years old at the time, to have the factors that led up to it and have that kind of confirmation was kind of like our biblical moment. Like you could, no matter what you thought before, after surviving something like that and the circumstances under which we survived it, that was like, but God, only God, you know?
1517 to Paris is in American theaters Friday, February 9th.
Still ahead, here on Studio 5.
Talked in the past about taking this place over and making it into a museum or something.
I own this place outright.
I know, they know. There's also such a thing as eminent domain.
We're sitting down with the film and television star, Gregory Alan Williams.
Welcome back to Studio 5. The countdown of the best headlines in the world of uplifting entertainment continues now.
At number 3.
Have you always been a basketball fan?
No. Oh gosh. Not at all. I come from a very artsy family.
The artsy Curry family is about to get bigger. Wearing a Prager shirt, Mrs. Steph Curry, Aisha Curry, announced on Instagram she and her basketball star husband are expecting their 3rd child. Curry wrote, "Hey, how did this happen? Feeling very blessed and very sick. Yippee!
The only sort of introduction to sports that I had before meeting my husband was Buffalo Bills football and Doug Flutie Flakes. My dad grew up in Buffalo and has been a Bills fan all his life.
At number 2, Christian music's largest annual tour, Winter Jam, is underway, and Studio 5 is backstage with this year's performers, including John Crist, the very first comedian to join the tour.
What made you say yes to doing this?
Hey, you're looking at it. I've worked with these musicians before at festivals and conferences and stuff like that. It's just the venues were just so big that it's kind of like a different muscle to work. Like if you worked at a comedy club with 200 and 300 people, and now they're putting you in front of, 12 and 15,000.
With that, there is now only one more remaining headline in the countdown. We'll get to it in a matter of moments. Gregory Alan Williams is an actor and an author. You've seen him in the OWN series Greenleaf, Baywatch, the film Question of Faith, and an endless list of credits. We're sitting down with him for this week's Studio 5 interview.
Photographs paint a picture of the long and successful career of actor Gregory Alan Williams.
Dear friends in Christ, the Reverend Michael Spurlock.
Studio 5 caught up with him on the set of All Saints, playing the role of a church bishop.
You swore an oath as a minister to God, not to me.
What was it about this story that attracted you?
I'm a pretty sentimental person. Love one another. And many years ago, I had a mentor who asked me to volunteer at a food pantry. I had gone to this individual seeking spiritual guidance, and he said, well, and we had a long conversation. And he never really talked. I mean, we didn't talk scripture, and we didn't pray. And he asked me to volunteer at this food pantry, and I did. And very soon, it became the highlight of my week. Working at the pantry. And at the same time, I had another mentor who used to say, I sought my God eluded me. I sought my soul I could not see. I sought my brothers and sisters, and I found all three. So somewhere in the midst of my volunteering in that food pantry, I realized that they had conspired, you see.
Now, you're a bishop in this film, and you're sort of a bishop's right hand in Greenleaf, if we could say that.
I don't even know that I'm a bishop's right hand.
I'm gonna give you one day. It won't tell me. I'm gonna give you one day to make this right.
I'll take care of it. I wonder about that myself. But I think that is the great gift that my God has given me, is to task me to play a pedophile, a sexual predator, in one project, so that folks' eyes may be opened. And there's yet a second project, also called A Question of Faith, with Kim Fields and Richard T. Jones. And my character is a pastor turning over his church to his son, and tragedy strikes, and my character becomes the spiritual center for that family. And I'm like, whew, wow.
In playing these spiritual leaders for you, I mean, is that something easy for you to tap into? Is it something you grew up with? What is it?
It's easy because I honor it. I remember those ministers. You know, I was mentored by these men, and these men, you know, were my shepherds. I have great respect for them. So when I'm asked to portray a shepherd, I take it very seriously. You know, for a long time, people have told me that, you know, they thought that the ministry, you know, was my calling, and I remember discussing it with my mother once, and she said, well, son, there's all kinds of ministries. So maybe real preachers are busy in their ministries and attending their flocks and the ministries they've been given. And so it's for me to pretend to impersonate them and hopefully do it well, you know what I mean, and represent them well on screen.
Do a great job. Now, you're not only an actor, but you are an author as well. You've written a few books. One of them that touched me is where you talk about how you were able to save a Japanese American during the LA riots. What do you remember most about that?
You know, it was my hands who, you know, grabbed onto him. But I wrote a book called The Gathering of Heroes because, and I was compelled to write it because what, you know, people were sort of making me out to be a hero, and the point I had to make was there was a time when I would have arrived at that intersection to harm rather than to help. So the book is about those people who gathered for me, to save me from myself, so that I might ascend to a summit of my destiny, so I might do the will of God on that particular corner. And when I say that, I don't mean to say that in any lofty way. When I say the will of God, I'll say G period, O period, D period, good orderly direction. You know what I mean? I'm not claiming that there was some sort of divine thing going on with me, but that at least my mind and my heart was ordered enough not to stand in the presence of an individual being deprived of their liberty and not do anything.
We mentioned that Gregory Alan Williams is not only an actor, he's also an author. He's written a novel called Heart of a Woman.
And still to come.
I can't think of one thing that could stop our fun.
Hello. Late night's James Corden lends his voice to Peter Rabbit's longtime feud.
It's an adventure story, really.
And he's in Studio 5 with your first look at the film.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news.
At number 1.
We begin with breaking news overnight. 3 Americans are hailed as heroes for foiling an attack on a high-speed train in Europe.
Alek Skarlatos, Anthony Sadler, and Spencer Stone make headlines around the world August 21st, 2015.
You guys just want to skip Paris?
Or at least delay it a little bit.
Their heroic story is now a feature film, 1517 to Paris. Clint Eastwood directs the action drama, and he began with an unlikely casting decision.
I was going through the regular casting thing of looking through a lot of actors and tape, good actors too, and they would have done a good job. But I kept looking at the guys, and I kept looking at their faces, and going over this, and finally one day I just said, "Do you guys think you could play yourself?"
Take me back to when he does ask. What are you thinking when he says, "Can you play yourselves?"
We just couldn't say no. We said yes right away. And then when he left the room for the first time, we all kind of looked at each other like, can we really do this?
We didn't want to risk the success of the film, having not acted before. We're like, I'm sure actors could do it. Like, this is unheard of. At the time, it just seemed so crazy almost.
That wraps this week's countdown and brings us to our next story. Peter Rabbit's longtime feud with Mr. McGregor reaches new heights. Both are competing for the affection of an animal lover who lives next door. Here's your Studio 5 first look.
Rabbits are generous, honest, pure, graceful creatures.
That's really sweet to see this sort of person who's fully communicating at all times with the animals around her. She's a bit like Snow White meets Jane Goodall.
Our natural rabbit's pace should be able to keep up.
Peter Rabbit is awesome because, especially in this film, he's James Corden plays him and he's so funny, of course, but he's doing the wrong thing, but he really means well. I think he's really a good guy.
Peter, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Never stopped me before. He's a classic underdog. He's a rascal.
Sorry! Wait, didn't you try to eat me? Show me your teeth. It was you! I knew it! How are you? So good to see you.
He's a leader and he has this confidence. No guts, no glory. He's got this zest for life.
Run! This way!
I think it's his sweet and adorable nature that allows him to get away with so much mischief.
Checking on a new neighbour. I'll explain it to him. We all share our land around here. Hello, I'm Bee. These gates are incredibly sturdy.
I just need to keep the wildlife out where they belong.
You're joking, right?
Flopsy, Mopsy and Conto are Peter's sidekicks, really. They're his family, and I think it weighs quite heavily on Peter's shoulders that he has to look after them.
Flopsy! Yeah!
Flopsy kind of has middle child syndrome. Sorry about Dad's jacket. I'm sorry you lost Dad's jacket. I just said that. She kind of does have a little bit of nervous energy. She has a lisp. Yeah, it's actually a bit confusing. It's fun to have the sister dynamic and be playing around all the time. Oh no, I think we have a problem. Everything's upside down.
Mopsy is the eldest of the triplets. Coming from the oldest, it just kind of means more. She's smart and feisty. She's an adorable, 1 foot tall rebel. I can read lips. Tail represents the sort of loose cannon.
Oh, it's okay. I've got 11 more ribs.
She is a little bit mental.
Should we break both ankles or just one? I'm sorry, that was weird.
Both. She's awesome.
Okay, so he's tricked her. There's only one way out of this. He's gotta go.
Did you know they set traps in my bed?
He's a rabbit.
It's your normal battle between two men over a woman who's probably better than both of them. Except for the woman in this is hilarious, and one of the men is a rabbit.
I have a vermin problem. An electric fence will keep them out.
What happens if we touch it?
We can't give up, it's our home. It's an adventure story, really.
You're mine now, rabbit.
It's so funny, but it has a lot of heart, and at the core, it is about being there for your family and the people that you love.
Thomas, what's going on here? My 2 boys getting along. Nothing could make me happier.
Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now.
Peter Rabbit is in theaters Friday, February 9th. And still to come.
My soul needs healing. I need you.
We head to Louisiana for a word from the Stellar-nominated group, The Showers. And welcome back to Studio 5. We are almost out of time for this episode. So let's take a look ahead to what we're working on for you next week. The much-anticipated film Black Panther is ready for the big screen.
Put her around the truck.
Ready, go!
Show off.
Studio 5 sits down with the breakout star, Letitia Wright. You are amazing in the film.
Thank you.
I hear many people singing your praises already. So you on purpose took this wanting to be an inspiration to young girls.
Yeah, it's something that I was pretty much praying about since I was a kid, you know. I just want to do something meaningful in the world. I want to contribute positively, so that means the roles that I get to play as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that the characters are always flawless and perfect.
No.
There's no perfect human being. But just for, like this one in particular, I know it's gonna release a lot of positive energy. So that's the type of work I would love to do. And I don't mind playing a villain or, you know, I don't mind doing that. But just to have something in my career where it's like a pinnacle moment of inspiration, I feel like this does it really well.
Be sure to look for that next week. As for the final episode of this show, I'm giving the final word to members of the Showers family. Mom and Dad have 10 children, and 7 of them sing in the 2-time Stellar-nominated group, the Showers family.
My soul needs healing. I need you.
Losing the family home to fire less than a year ago gave birth to new music for the Showers and this music video.
My soul needs
How do you go forward after losing everything? I mean, you've given your life, your family, committed to serving God, and then you watch your earthly possessions.
Actually, I could go forward because I saw God in all of it. If I had not seen Him in it, I could not have gone through it. because I know in my heart he could have stopped it, he could have prevented it, but he allowed it to be. And I'm under the mindset of knowing that, well, we know that all things work together for the good, to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. And I saw his purpose in it, and I was able to go through it. You know, it still bothers me at times, but I still look back and say he knows what's best for me.
That's a great final word from an amazing family. We'll have much more from them in a future episode of Studio 5. That's a wrap, though, for this week's show. Until next time, reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then I'd love you to come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.